A lot of people have experiences with people who always leave them feeling worse off and angry after meeting them. These persons sponsor some negativities and discouragements to them in life. These persons are referred to as toxic people. If you have a hard time dealing with this kind of people in your life, maybe this will be very helpful to you. Here are some ways to shut down, ignore, and deal with these toxic people. 1. Forgive them, but do not forget. Forgiveness is about letting go of expecting things to be different. You'll never be able to control the past, but you can control how much power it has to impact your future. Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting the behavior or approving of it. It means that you're not going to be controlled by it anymore. It's something done in strength and with an abundance of self-love. Don't forget the way people treat you, for better or worse, and use that to help you live with clarity and resolve. Toxic people always carry trashes and bags of offense and bitterness, and it is for your good that you do not accept and receive those bags of offense in their mouths. Like they say, you cannot stop the bird from flying in the air, but you can avoid their feces from coming on your head. Offenses is always a killer and a poison to your heart. You always have to be matured to just forgive for your good. Forgiveness is always something we can give as a response to toxic behaviors around us. Just let it pass. Forgiveness doesn't mean you are okay with whatever happens. It doesn't mean you excuse it. It just means you are not letting it take over your life. This is why forgiveness doesn't mean you will or want to reconcile with the person who did you wrong. You may or you may not. It's your choice. Forgiveness is not a feeling. We often don't have direct control of our feelings, especially when someone has seriously wronged us, but we can control our actions. By forgiving someone, you're choosing not to let someone else's actions dominate your life. Having grudges, as they say, is taking poison you planned for others. This is the quickest way to shut down and ignore toxic people. Forgiveness relieves you of a lot so you can move on in life. 2. Avoid arguments, say no, and walk away. Toxic people always love attention, and the more you attend to their toxic behavior, the more they use that room to frustrate you. You do not have to keep arguing with them because they are a dead end. When you push hard, they press more back. Dealing with someone's toxic behavior can be exhausting. The person might constantly complain about others, always have a new story about unfair treatment, or even accuse you of wronging them or not caring about their needs. Resist the urge to jump on the complaining train with them or defend yourself against accusations. Instead, respond with a simple, "I'm sorry you feel that way," and leave it at that. Arguments are a show of both persons that are displaying their ignorance. No matter how annoying this person seems to pull your legs, do not strive, but listen to all they have to say and just walk away. That is one way to ignore and shut down toxic people. Sure, you know that these persons are saying all negative words and unnecessary words. Then you know also that you are the one that is right. Just say you are right to calm their nerves and walk away. But if you do decide to say to the temptation to argue, no, don't back down. This may prove challenging, especially when they use a dramatic outburst to try to get their way. But the more you practice saying no to things you aren't comfortable with, the easier it becomes. The surest way to show your maturity and shut down these toxic people from frustrating you is to just say no to their arguments and exercise self-control. It is an effect of strength. 3. Make yourself unavailable. The driving force of every relationship is availability. Whatever relationship you want to destroy or build is from lack of availability and availability respectively. Toxic people can sense who they can easily manipulate. If you're never available, they might eventually stop trying to engage. This strategy can be particularly helpful at work, where you're bound to have plenty of honest excuses, like, "I have much work to do, I can't talk or chat now. Let's talk later." For a few weeks, when the person sees the trend of your behavior, they will stop engaging you. Limit your time with them. People who behave toxically tend to focus on themselves and what they want. They might blame you or other people for any problems they have and show little interest in your feelings or needs. This can make spending time with them unpleasant. If you're dealing with someone who picks fights with you or repeatedly pushes your boundaries, consider scaling back the amount of time you spend with them. The only way to avoid picking fights and getting offended is just to never associate with them. Availability shows acceptance, so you want to avoid and shut down that negativity in your life. Why don't you try to not be available in their company and change your association? 4. Set boundaries. If you are dealing with a toxic person and you just ignore and shut down their negativity, why don't you try to set rules and boundaries within them? As it is often said, you will get what you give room for in your space. It is your right and duty to set your boundaries over some meaning and define strictly what is this relationship for. Maybe the reason for the negativity that this person keeps giving to you is because you keep being soft with it, and you never rejected and told them what you allow in your space. Setting boundaries involves deciding what you will and won't tolerate. Communicate these boundaries clearly and stick to them. Maybe you don't mind listening to your coworkers' dramatic stories, even the fictional ones, but you draw your line at verbal abuse or gossip. This is different from being rude. You can be polite and honest and still set your boundaries unless this toxicity will let it in your mind and company and make you offended, and the place of offense is a place of ineffectiveness. By setting boundaries, you guard your heart against negativity and purify your life. Everyone is a product of what they permit, so be intentional about setting boundaries and see the changes. You can't please everyone, but toxic people will have you believe that you can't please anyone, so you try harder, work harder, and compromise more. It's exhausting. Toxic people will have your boundary torn down and buried before you even realize you had one there. By knowing exactly what you'll tolerate and what you want and why, you can decide how far you're willing to let someone encroach on your boundaries before it's just not worth it anymore. Be ready to listen to that voice inside you that lets you know when something isn't right. 5. Don't be the victim. People can be a pity sometimes, but you're not one of those. Decide that you won't be anyone's victim. Instead, be the one with the boundaries, the strength, the smarts, and the power to make the decisions that will help you to thrive. Even if they're decisions you'd rather not be making, on that it's a move you've made to get what you want, rather than to bend to someone else's will. You're amazing, you're strong, and you're powerful, which is why you're nobody's victim, nobody. 6. Focus your mind on the positive. I know how cliche this sounds, but I also know that if you dwell on how infuriating toxic people can be or the problems they create, do your best to catch yourself when you start to fixate on the negative and try to consciously switch your thoughts to solutions or more positive situations. Toxic people don't deserve your mental energy. This life punishes intimidation and honors the courageous heart. Great testimony comes from a great trial. See, there is a reason why this toxic behavior steers at you. Maybe you are trained by life to focus on the positive, and that is one way to ignore and shut down toxic people. Set your mind on the positive. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report. If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Philippians 4:8. Toxic people will try to affect your mind with negative thoughts, but when those thoughts come up, you can respond with positive words. You are thinking about big things, maybe to buy that land and build that house to start a family. Then that person begins to your circle and tries to discourage you and point to your weaknesses. You should focus on the positive and speak back positive words to your mind. This will save you a lot of time and energy. Never be discouraged. What you see in your heart is valid. Do that plan that you set in your mind. This is a fight. Fight to focus